Well, this is the car that's single-handedly making it socially acceptable to drive a people mover. The Kia Carnival has seen great success in Australia. It typically takes up around 90% of the local people mover market and regularly ranks as one of Kia's top 5 best-selling models. And now it's been sharpened up for 2024. The changes include revised styling, improved ride and handling, more safety, infotainment and tech, and importantly, a brand new hybrid variant. Now, unfortunately, the hybrid doesn't land until after the diesel and petrol updated models do. It's due around June in Australian showrooms, and of course, it's only offered in one spec grade, and naturally, it's the most expensive one. Still, we're excited and expect good things from that car. But did Kia just make a damn good thing even better? Well, I'm at the launch of the Kia Carnival petrol and diesel models to find out. The Kia Carnival used to be able to claim a starting price below $50,000, but sadly, this is no longer the case, with price hikes of roughly $3,500 on average across the entire range. The petrol V6 is the most affordable powertrain, starting at just over $50,000 for the S grade and going up to just over $70,000 for the GT line. Meanwhile, diesel pricing starts at just over $52,000 for the S and goes up to almost $73,000 for the GT line. Naturally, the hybrid will be the most expensive of the bunch, with a starting price of $76,210 before on-road costs. So Kia's smart, right? They know that the market is heading more towards SUVs than people movers, so they've kept that in mind when redesigning the Carnival with this new facelift, and they've brought it more in line with its EV9 and Sorento siblings with the revised grille and tail lights and bumper and styling. It's giving a little bit more large SUV than it is minibus or people mover. They've also added a very cool function which is called Remote Smart Park Assist. So you guys know the struggle of owning a large car. You park it in a small parking space in an underground shopping centre car park. You can't actually get down the side of your car to actually get in. So what they've done is they've allowed you to remotely start the car and get it out of a tight parking space without having to actually be in it. Here it comes. Beautifully done. Now I can get in and I don't have to do these ones, Mission Impossible down the side. So if I can unlock it, that would help, hey? So the focus in the cabin of the Carnival has been on streamlining and modernising. I'm in the GT line grade, so obviously this has all the kit and then some, but even as standard, all grades get things like a rear occupant alert, front and rear parking sensors. You've got all kind of convenience features as well. You've got a centre airbag across all grades and things like that. It also has a brand new 12.3-inch central touchscreen, which on the higher grades incorporates with a 12.3-inch driver display, and they look pretty spectacular side by side in this nice sleek singular glass panel. Higher grades also get a wireless phone charger down here. They've also got some cool party tricks as well. So this mirror here on the GT line doubles as a video feed. So if you've got people in the back seat or the weather's bad and you want a clearer view, you just toggle this on the mirror and it will give you a video feed fed from a camera on top of the car. So you never have to worry about big heads blocking your rear view. Now the Carnival's always been good at storage and that hasn't changed one bit. It's still capacious and roomy, and room for all your knickknacks is in here. So you've got this massive central storage bin, little storage tray next to it, another storage tray next to the wireless phone charger, a couple of big cup holders and even more cup holders here if you're like me and you need 15 coffees just to get through the day. On top of that, this 12.3-inch touchscreen comes with Kia Connect, which is their kind of connected car interface, and that gives you things like over-the-air updates if you need them. If your car's stolen, you can track it. It allows you to remotely lock and unlock your vehicle, all kinds of cool party tricks like that. This is a really well-specified grade, the GT line. You get all kinds of fun comfort features, heated and ventilated front seats, heated steering wheel. What more could you want? Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are both wireless across the range. Again, it's Kia, it's familiar, it's just updated and freshened and streamlined, and they've done a really nice job of keeping the core of the Carnival alive while making it a little bit jazzier for 2024. Well, we all know the true test of a three-row car is how bad or good it is for the person in the third row. And the Carnival really nails the roof. I can say I've just got just enough headroom to do like some head dancing here, you can see. It's quite a novelty for me in a three-row car to have tow room. I have it. I have quite a lot of tow room. And as you can see, this seat is all the way back and I've still got knee room to play with. So it's definitely a proper three-row, full-time three-row car, which is fantastic. Also, backseat occupants don't get ripped off, which is fantastic. They've even got rear sun blinds here, which they think of everything, these people. USB-C ports. All the ports in this car have been switched over from USB-A to USB-C, so get your USB-C cords ready if you have them. Cup holders back here and air vents as well, and the dual sunroof just makes it nice and light and easy and breezy, so definitely not a terrible spot to be, which can't be said for many three-row cars, so Kia's done a good job on that front.
The updated Carnival is the same size as its predecessor, with only a slight increase to its boot space with the third row folded. Otherwise, the Carnival remains positively cavernous, with 2 rows of rear seating that can be raised, lowered, folded flat or even reversed for maximum flexibility.
Now, aside from the addition of the 1.6 litre petrol hybrid variant, of course, Kia has maintained the existing powertrains already on offer in the Carnival range. So that is a 3.5 litre petrol V6 and a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. So I'm currently in the diesel, and I can say you can tell the difference. I drove up in the petrol and it's a lot sleeker and smoother in its delivery of power. Obviously the diesel, you have that grunt. It's a little bit slower to get moving, but refinement overall is good. You can just kind of tell the difference between you switching between the two. But of course, the huge benefit of the Carnival diesel, and one of the reasons it's quite a good seller for the brand, is that it's incredibly frugal on fuel. So we've done a fair bit of freeway driving today, but it's also been in some heavy traffic, and I think it's sitting around 6.5 litres per 100 kilometres, which is pretty good for a large car. Now, speaking of large car, this is a car that does a really nice job of disguising its size. We've said it before, but what they've done at Kia with this facelift is they've really sharpened up the ride, the suspension and the handling. So during COVID, they couldn't get any engineers to come to Australia to actually locally tune the suspension. Thankfully, they've managed to do that finally. Things have opened back up, and now they're able to actually test this on local roads and tune it for local roads. So they've sharpened everything up, which means that it's a bit sharper going into corners, it recovers a little bit better, it's eliminated some of that body roll. Supposedly the ride in the back seat is better too, so that's a huge win, because there were some complaints that the third row was a little bit bumpy back there. It just settles well, it's quite nice into corners, and you really don't feel the kind of full weight of the car. I am, of course, aware I'm driving a larger vehicle. It's got a little bit of a booty to it, so I do find that I'm going into corners a bit more slowly than I would in a smaller car, but the steering feel is nice and light. Visibility all around is excellent. That's a huge call out on this car. I really don't feel like I have any blind spots. Massive side mirrors, really expansive back windshield. It's just a lovely, easy car to drive. And I will say that I like the diesel. I think I preferred the petrol. I'm more of a petrol girl myself. It just felt a bit smoother and even more car-like than this does. This has got a little bit of that truck feel, and you can kind of hear the whining of the engine, and it's just a little bit more slow to get going, or it's kind of sort of subtler in its power delivery. But yeah, overall a really comfortable car to drive. The ride is exceptional in the front actually, and refinement and just kind of noise, vibration, harshness is really minimal, because I'll tell you what, today I've had all sorts of weather conditions. It's been pouring rain. I've been on some pretty rough and ready highways and freeways, and I've felt pretty cocooned in this car, I've got to say. It did get very noisy when the rain was coming down on the roof, but that's not the Carnival's fault, that's Sydney's fault. And I think overall it does feel like a very well cushioned car. It's nicely insulated, it's comfortable, and it's quiet. So that's a real win, particularly when you have sleeping kids in the back seat. All right, so let's talk safety equipment. So one of the additions to this car with the facelift have been a blind spot view monitor, and that essentially means that when you indicate, it pops up a little camera feed of what's in your blind spot in your digital driver display, which is always really handy. I do sometimes find it a little bit distracting, but I think it's never a bad thing to have extra layers of security so you don't accidentally veer into traffic or not not be aware of what's next to you. Makes a huge difference. You've also got all kinds of kit like live speed limit updates, which you can make them a little bit more aggressive, so they shout at you and make you slow down, or they just flash at you. I find that the head-up display is comically large almost, and Kia actually said they made a point because they realized that they'd added the head-up display to the Carnival pretty late in terms of the rest of the Kia range. They thought, well, if we're going to be late, we better do it big. So I think it's the biggest head-up display offered on any Kia variant, and you can really tell it's got everything in there. It's got step-by-step directions, speed limit. You can even get album artworks up if you're listening to your music, so you know which track it's on. Yeah, it's quite sizable. It's also got a digital speedo in there, which I always find really handy. The roads we're on today, the speed limit is changing constantly. There's work zones, school zones, closed lanes, everything, and it's just been really nice to keep across what the speed limit is, because they do change so much when you're driving in urban settings. So that's been really handy. Now, I'm really impressed with the brakes and composure on this car. We had to come to a stop quite suddenly just back there. We were coming down a hill around a bend, and the amber light came on. So we had to brake, and this car came to a stop so quickly and efficiently and without any lurching. So I often find in larger cars, you slam the brakes on if you have to, and they really lurch forward and you feel a little bit out of control. This just settled very quickly. It was very stable, and it came to a stop much faster than I expected it to. So that's really fantastic, and I think an achievement in a large car that's worth calling out. Yeah, definitely I can see why this car is a popular choice for people who are maybe people mover owners who don't want to feel like people mover owners. They want to live in the lush haze of denial for a little bit longer and maybe ignore the fact that they have 5 children. But no, this is good. Oh, we're going over some pretty big potholes just there. And again, this car has been tuned for, you know, local roads, some of which are not perfect. So it handles that pretty well. You can obviously feel the weight of the car into those bumps and divots, but it does a nice job of settling, and you don't feel top heavy like you would in, say, maybe a large SUV. So they've done a great job of that. One thing I will say I don't love is this low profile dial gear shifter. It's just a little bit fiddly and finicky and quite small for a car of this size. I feel like I want something to grab onto and something more tactile, and it just feels like when you're maneuvering and doing quick changes in direction, it's just adding a layer of difficulty that I don't need, particularly when you have to already deal with the fact that you're parking a very large vehicle. In summary, I think the updated Carnival, the huge benefit of it is that they've just done a really nice job of tuning this suspension so it's a little bit more appropriate for local roads. It's a sharper handling car. It also recovers nicely. It kind of disguises its size really well. Performance-wise, it's not going to change your life, but it will get you to school on time, which is very important. I tend to prefer the petrol, although you know, it remains to be seen whether the fuel savings of the diesel are worth it over the petrol. I think if I was doing longer haul driving on a regular basis, I'd probably go for the diesel because it has got that grunt. It's just a little less sleek to drive, although they've done a lovely job of refinement. And the petrol V6 obviously has that power and is a little bit sharper off the line too. So overall though, I think that the call out here with the Carnival is that if you already own one currently, you know, it's not going to feel that different upgrading to the new one. It's just going to feel a little bit more polished, and that's what they were really going for here. Probably a little bit more suited, well suited to the rigors of daily driving in Australia, which is kind of what this car does best.
In terms of fuel economy, while I preferred the petrol engine's polish, the diesel certainly wins on the efficiency front. Our driving on the launch was mostly extra urban, but we spent large stretches of time sitting in heavy traffic. The petrol Carnival averaged 12 litres per 100 kilometres on test, which was in line with Kia's urban claim, while the diesel Carnival averaged 6.5 litres per 100 kilometres, reaching up to 7.5 litres per 100 kilometres in heavier traffic. Kia quotes 6.5 litres per 100 kilometres for the diesel on a combined cycle, so that's bang on the money.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. At least that seems to be the mantra that Kia has employed when redesigning and updating its Carnival for 2024. Existing Carnival owners will likely find this car feels pretty familiar. It's just a little bit fancier, a little bit techier, nicer to drive, and with a few more party tricks up its sleeve. Of course, the addition of a hybrid in this space has the potential to be game-changing, but it remains to be seen whether stock levels and the higher price tag will hold it back at launch. Regardless, we are eagerly anticipating anticipate its arrival, and in the meantime, the Carnival continues to fly the flag for people movers everywhere.